this was at the beginning, the foundation. So you were there at the foundation of the Economic Freedom Front, setting up this new party and getting it ready for, you said, I think the 2014 elections or something like that. To be honest, you're a young, sweet, white woman with a Jewish background, and you get into contact with this guy. Is this political opportunism for Malema, or and what is it about the philosophy, the ideas of the EFF that would attract you to bring you into this unique situation?
I think, people may say, well, I was the first white woman in the party. There are a lot of white people now in the party. I joined at a time when it was very unpopular. I remember attending a rally and going back to get a cold drink on the way back after many hours of a very hot rally, and was in a supermarket queue and being spat on by an Afrikaans man who told me I was like a devil.
Yeah.
And so, I got a terrible reaction from white people, but I think I did very little for Julius. It wasn't that they wanted me to be part of that. And somebody along the line had said, the communication of the EFF is so outstanding, Kim. We can see that you constructed it. And I said, no, not at all. Strange enough, I went in to help, but I learned more from them than I could ever have hoped for about media and communication. So I didn't play a very important role. I was delegated to work in Alex, which, like most people, I didn't know very well. I had a few university friends there, so I would, go and have parties and meet people. But I can tell you, I was responsible for half of Alex and the campaigning there. So every day that was my life. And that changed me a lot because I saw on a day-to-day basis, I wasn't a pedestrian in terms of being in Alex. I was part and parcel of that. And, I saw things that I think most white people haven't seen. Through the time that we were campaigning there was a shack fire. We virtually witnessed a man being, burned to death. We helped his family and got his remains sorted out. He was a Zimbabwean and the ANC wouldn't help at that time. And I saw the compassion of the EFF to say, here's a human being who's passed away through horrific conditions, socioeconomic conditions, and the EFF community rallied together and helped his family. Yeah. So there were very painful moments. I was on the ground. I wasn't sitting in head office strategizing, at a top level. And my experience, I left the EFF, but I think I was too ungovernable. I'm not really good at listening to commands, but still today, I have so much respect for the average ground force of the EFF. Yeah. Wonderful people who've been selflessly involved in putting the agenda of radical economic transformation forward. Yeah. So I'm in the history of EFF. I'm not even a footnote, actually.
What is the policy framework of the EFF that you find convincing, that you say this is the key to emancipate South Africa from the horrors of poverty and the social and developmental phase in which we are right now?
First and foremost, and my writings over many years has focused on this, is that I believe that land which was stolen must be returned. I believe that land is the basis of freedom. And we cannot speak about being free until land is redistributed. So I believe that the ANC, in its timid, white-loving way, took land off the table, purposely so. And if anything attracted me to the EFF, it was that. For the colonized people, there is nothing more essential than land. I don't think the two of us can understand the impact of land being taken from you, not only in economic terms, but in spiritual terms too.
Yeah.
So that was the key thing, I think, that would attract me.
Which is also the key thing of Andile, of course. He called me in our interview, he called me an unwanted settler. Go back home was more or less his words to me during our discussion. It was a very charming discussion, I should say. But I get what you're saying. Just a little bit back to Malema, the Malema appeal. Objectively, though, I mean, where he is today, isn't Malema, as it's been said many times, also the example of, and how do you marry these things, the Gucci socialist?
Well, I mean, I think it is a criticism, and
Oh, it's a
I
valid,
remember.
isn't it?
Sorry.
It's a valid criticism.
No, I was actually saying on a platform. Actually, it was hosted by Carl Niehaus because he does
Mhm.
really great. You must really come through actually on X Spaces, and he does educational discussions every week. And we were discussing the South African situation, and I raised the issue that my belief is that all public officials should use public transport, hospitals. I really believe in that. So if I was a member of parliament tomorrow, I would follow that. I believe the EFF should be doing that. Actually, I was quite impressed that Action SA, which is not a party I support, have now are putting together a bill in Parliament that all parliamentarians must use public hospitals and facilities. That to me is a Sankarist type of approach to governance, and so one I support, and one which the EFF purports to do, but hasn't lived up to fully, actually, in my criticism. So he is not the Thomas Sankara a politician in term if we look at how he materially lives his life. But the
Mhm.
policies do resonate very well with the work of Sankara, the issue of sovereignty, self-dependence, um, cultural superiority and reclamation. But he could be criticized for that. I remember once I was traveling back from Parliament. I was a guest of the EFF and I was traveling with Floyd, and he had just put out his book, The Coming Revolution. And I asked him to autograph my copy, and we're sitting, and I took a picture as he was autographing. And when we arrived in Johannesburg, which is like a 2-hour flight, my there was an explosion of social media and articles saying, "Look at Floyd's shoes," which were expensive.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh my gosh, here I am sitting with him, the deputy president, discussing a beautiful book about the history of the struggle, the ANC Youth League, the EFF, and now people are commenting on his shoes, which perhaps is something to discuss. But in the context of here, we have a historical document written by a collective of Black revolutionaries. I thought that focus on expensive shoes was misguided. So it can be mischievous.
You may think that, Kim, and it might be convenient even to say that right now. And I'm not trying to be tough on you right now, but I kind of have the impression that you come from a place of where you really believed in these things. A lot of heart and a lot of passion in that. And let's be honest, and from that framework, that mental frame, and I know lots of people that have very, very progressive ideals and firmly believed in a lot of liberal ideals and the ideals of the new South Africa. But you've got to confess that there is something basically quite disgusting about a political leader writing these authentic good books about the condition of the country and the people and so on, whilst wearing their fancy shoes and Gucci bags and things like that. There is something quite repulsive about that, quite honestly.
I think that it's not something that I would stand up and say, look, I'm comfortable with that. But I think that must be applied across the spectrum. We can say that about Black politicians, but rarely do we say that about white politicians.